Sohal. Today I present a presentation of 7413 on how catastrophic risks such as COVID-19 could impact the supply chain industry. What is like the COVID-19 could impact the supply chain industry? Yes, the coronavirus pandemic is only that shock to supply chains, but COVID-19 is a wake up call to business in terms of the cost of being underprepared. The Australian supermarket chain Woolworth has announced that it is closing all of its supermarkets nationwide early 4 on night. So it can reshock store in effort to manage panic buying in the face of COVID-19 pandemic. But it's not just here in Australia community fears over COVID-19 hassle to consumer around would panic buying goods. And I'll start with my introduction. Yeah, the impact of COVID-19 supply chain industry is the main point of focus for the presentation. Also, at present condition, the operations of supply chain industry have got affected due to effect of COVID-19. The whole of society has got disturbed due to the catastrophic condition. And also, like a short introduction has been presented so that the problem can be explained in a regard to the business. COVID-19 has now become a diamond for communities all over the world. Supply chain plays a significant role in every type of industry, moving the raw material from the supplier to manufacture. It always involves numerous steps from the start to end, transforming the raw material into the finished product due to the outbreak of COVID-19. Supply chain network of industries are in danger. Then next slide is going to background the topic. Yeah. Background, yeah, it's a background of the topic. The restrictions have stopped all the operations of the supply chain industry and created a dead end situation. The topic mainly emphasizes on the effect of the COVID-19 in decreasing the growth of the supply chain industry. The supply chain industry is observing a great loss due to the restrictions implemented by the government for COVID-19. Also, this is part according to the view of the scientist. COVID-19 will stay longer and thus the business will be affected greatly. Yes, of course, the supply chain industry has not yet obtained a solution of the mitigation and the pandemic situations. Supply chain is the heart of the industry of the inevitable role of the distribution of the product, obtain and solution the mitigation and pandemic situation. Supply chain is the heart of all the industry for their inevitable role and distribute the product globally from the manufacturer to the consumer. The widespread of this virus temporarily slowed down the network across the world, which is resulting in an increase in cost for various products. Now I am going to the third slide. It's a discussion of the supply chain industry, introduction on supply chain industry. The word supply chain is strictly related to the export and import of the product regarding the particular industry. And another one is the transformation of goods and services is one of the core service provided by the supply chain industry. A whole industry is based on the management for organizing all the components effectively. Supply chain partners involve many parties that are externally and internally related to fulfilling a customer requirement. The main three components of supply chain industry are namely source, make, and deliver that help in keeping balance in the management, and other major industries are also depending on the industry and product delivery. In the product delivery supply chain that help to keeping balance in the management, the other major industries are also depending on the industry for the product delivering process. Supply chain is a network between the industrial organizations and its supplier for distributing the product finally to the consumer. Different type of activities and including in the network like people, information, several tendencies and resources. And just give me 1 minute. And the fourth slide is main factors of supply chain industry. I think this slide it's assessing the business system and also assessing business system of the one main factor of the supply chain, and the business system need to assess according to the infrastructures in the supply chain, redesigning of the process. Yes, and another slide is main factor of supply chain industry. Continue with my next friend. Yeah.
So, hello everyone. I'm Aqib Syed Mustafa Ali. Going forward, the main factors of supply chain industry are uh, like the supply chain industry is consisting of several factors for performing their daily operations. The component supply chain is essential for every sector. Thus, it needs to remain active all over the year. There are five factors that have been discussed below. The first one is assessing the business systems. The business systems needs to be assessed according to the infrastructure in the supply chain. Assessing the business system is one of the main factors of supply chain. The supply chain processes needs to be developed often so that it can meet the criteria of the clients. Development in the supply chain can be done if the business systems has been assessed properly by the leaders. The second one, redesigning the processes. The processes of the supply chain gets redesigned according to the trend. It helps the supply chain to remain active for every sector. The supply chain partners related to the industry do the mapping of the current process. Then redesign the process according to the needs. It helps to re-engineer the process of supply chain according to the need of industry. Third one, evaluation of the performance. It is a crucial predictor of supply chain industry. The performance of the processes must be evaluated for extracting its effectiveness on the systems. The evaluated results helps to determine the areas of improvement and thus results in providing the best services. Effective measures have been taken for improving the performance of the supply chain industry. The high value of performance helps to enhance the business in every industry. Fourth one, increasing cost along with risk mitigation. The revenue or cost of industry needs to be increased every year along with mitigating the risk. It can be done through proper planning to the project. The supply chain partners mainly emphasize on increasing the cost by applying measures on the system. The increase in cost helps in gaining more benefits for a particular organization. The supply chain partners always try to remain in a close binding with the supply chain department of the organization. Fifth one, managing management and responsibility. Sometimes the top management does not want to get involved in the supply chain process. It affects the supply chain industry a lot. Lack of managerial persons may lead to imbalance in the system. It must be avoided so that proper management operations can be performed. The supply chain partners are part of management and responsible for the major operations. Thus, the top management should involve in managing the responsibility for executing the operation successfully. So the next topic, role of factors for enhancing the business, which includes the first one, assessing the business system. Regular assessment of the business systems helps to identify the flaws in the system. The leaders can take suggestive measures for mitigating these flaws from the system. As a result, the business provides effective services and increases its growth on the market. The second one, redesigning of the processes. The processes should be redesigned according to the trend of business. Redesigning helps to enhance the business effectively and many functions can be added to the business after redesigning. The process must be followed by the supply chain partners and the leaders for improvement in the supply chain system. Third one, evaluation of the performance. In every industry, performance plays a main role in improving the business. Thus, the performance must be evaluated for increasing the growth of the business. The flaws can be mitigated effectively by implementing preventive measures. Fourth one, increasing cost along with risk mitigation. The cost of the business depends on the sales and revenue of the business. It must be increased every year for the improvement of business. It will help to increase the business effectively in a highly competitive market. Thus, the risk must be mitigated by implementing preventive measures on the system. Fifth one, managing management and responsibility. Management responsibility is the main factor in enhancing the business of the supply chain. Other major industries prefer those supply chain partners that have efficient power of management responsibility for handling the functions. Handling management helps in delivering the product effectively with proper planning. Imbalance in the management affects the growth of business. It must be avoided for increasing the value of the business in a competitive market. So the next topic will be continued by my friend Nikunj. Nikunj, please go ahead.
Hi guys, myself Nikunj Kathiria. As my friend Wahid talk about the role of factors enhancing in the business. Now I am continuing to discuss the effect of COVID-19 on supply chain industry. So first we can introduce the COVID-19. In year end of the 2019, the several cases of pneumonia with unknown etiology were identified in the Wuhan city or of Hubei province in China. So it's mainly occur in end of the 2019 in month of September or October, mainly started from the China. Then after they spread all over the world. In starting of this year 2020, January to end of the January 2020, the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 outbreak as a public health emergency of international concern. So WHO is declared this is a big pandemic of year 2020 for all human beings of the world. And in January 2020, the disease was named as a SARS-CoV-2. The full form of SARS is Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2. So move to the next slides. The effect of COVID-19 on factor of supply chain industries. Assessing the business system. First one is assessing the business system. In many countries, seaports, airports are restricted or even sealed due to the COVID-19, which is create a big trouble for the industry. Like in many countries, there is a education, health, transportation, everything is stopped. So there is a big effect on the business industries all over the world. This delay increased the cost of supply chain, which one of the major problem of the industry. Second thing is the redesigning of the process. The sudden fluctuation in the demand and supply due to the global spread of COVID-19 virus infection have created significant logical and security challenge. It's prevent. Next one. The effect of COVID-19 factor on supply chain industry. Evaluation of performance. The first one is organizing the delivery and collection of products are hampered and have slowed down due to the delay in shipments. It results in decrease in the performance of industry. As you know, the all transportation and export import processing is delay and most probably stop. So all industry may be affected from the export and import factors. Third one is increasing cost along with the risk mitigation. The unexpected happening are missing the opportunity for sale and excessive increase in indirect cost from the supplier through the short informative notice, duration, and even damage of reputation of branded industry and organization. The managing manageable responsibilities for the end is the fact makes risen the frequently even the range of wait a minute, there is a screen problem. Yeah. The management responsibility due to there is a COVID-19 differ for the regulatory complements bitches. So the next slide will be continued by my friend Akib. Thank you.
Wahid. Sorry, it's Wahid. So hello everyone. My name is Wahid. So as my friends talked about how the COVID-19 started and how it has affected the supply chain management. So I'm going to be carrying on with further information as to how it actually affected the industry, the supply chain industry after the coronavirus started. So I would like to say before getting on to my actual slides, like the effect which coronavirus or the COVID-19 has put on the supply chain industry, it has been distributed into three different parts. First is the first shock or the supply shock. So since out of 500 in the top 500 global fortune companies, 200 are actually set up and have their industries in China. And after the virus outbreak in Wuhan, the supply chain mainly was affected because of the reason that most of these companies have their industry set up in China, Wuhan. And since all the countries have closed their borders in the first time with China, the supply chain was the first shock which was sent to the supply chain industry. And the second was the demand shock. Once the supply chain was really drastically impacted by the COVID-19, it had a reverse effect on the demand because the supply decreased, but the demand of the products and commodities actually increased a lot, which caused a greater problem to the different industries, especially the food sector. And the third one was the last part, which we are actually facing right now, is the aftershock. So as we can take an example of this ironically situation, which was going on almost in every part of the country, of the toilet paper situation. In assessing the demand, the companies actually produce a lot of bulks or heaps of toilet paper, thinking that they're going to be selling it out in like no time. They've actually done it. But now since the virus is slowly settling down. As we've seen, it's almost wiped down in Australia. Like companies are just sitting with huge amount of stock in their places, and they're not actually able to sell those. So that was like the third shock for the companies, that they've actually produce a lot of stuff, but they're not able to sell it. So getting on to my actual slide, this is of the International Monetary Fund, which says the global economy, that's the overall economy of the entire world, is going to go down by 3% in the year 2020. Yeah, that's like the Great Depression, which came in back in 1930s. That was the time around World War II. And we have even seen in the news over here in Australia recently that Australia is in recession and it's going to go down more. That means it's going to be more horrible of the recession in Australia. And the second one is oil prices have reduced drastically, especially in the month of March. And industries, because the industries have stopped working, they've closed down, they've shut down due to this COVID-19. The oil prices actually went down negative. They were trading below zero on the stock market. And Nikunj, can you go on to the next slide, please?
Yep.
Yeah. So the next slide is COVID-19 as a catastrophic risk. COVID-19 has fallen a great effect on the working hours of supply chain industry. Yes, that is true. We might have seen that in like huge number of corporates after this outbreak, everyone started preferring to work from home. Even the companies have asked their employees to work from home, after which the companies have actually recognized that if the employees work from home, they need less amount of hours compared to those they used to take when they used to come at the office. That means when the companies had 10 workers at their place doing a certain task, and when they work from home, they just need 8 workers at the same time. So that means they're actually firing out a lot of employees in an anticipating that this virus is going to go for a long time, and they can just have less number of employees to work from home and give huge productivity. And the second point is it has become a catastrophic risk for all the sectors as it has affected the earnings of several employees in the industry. Yes, that is true. After the outbreak of COVID-19, especially in the food sector and the restaurants industry, their business has gone down like horribly. So after which, many of the employees are getting paid less, or they're not getting paid at all. And yeah, almost 80% of the economy, almost 30 million of the population of America is right now unemployed, and almost 20 million of them are not getting paid their salaries. And moving on to the last slide, that's conclusion. Nikunj, can you please go to next? Yeah. So as we move towards the conclusion, I would say that COVID-19 has created a pandemic situation all over the world, not just in one country. And as a result, the supply chain industry has been greatly affected. One of the main reasons why supply chain industry has been affected is, as I said, out of 500 global fortune companies, 200 of them are set up in Wuhan, in the main province where the outbreak started, because of which the supply chain has been drastically affected. And the second point, the operations of the supply chain industry at present condition is facing a drastic fall due to severe barriers created by COVID-19. Yeah, it has actually created a barrier between the production department and the supply department and the human resource department. Because not all the products are produced at the same place. Like we get raw material from a particular country, and that's manufactured in particular country and exported to a different country. So since all the countries have shut down their borders, it's really difficult for the products to move around different borders, different countries, and get it exported or get it delivered to the final consumer. And the last point is, according to the findings in the process, proper planning of an effective framework must be done to mitigate the risk of COVID-19 on the supply chain industry. Yeah, I would say that the COVID-19 is like a black swan, which has actually forced companies to transform or to change their way of thinking in order how to get the supply chain moving and how to get their raw materials delivered to them for the final production in a smooth way. So that's all for our presentation. So here's our bibliography, basically the different resources or sources which we have got the information for. And at the end, I would like to thank for giving us this opportunity, even for presenting online. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, you can stop the recording.